Ram Kumar's keen sensitivity to the human condition and the physical world define his life's work. As a student in Paris, his time was marked by a heightened awareness of left-leaning politics and the fraught nature of a post-colonial Indian identity. After Ram Kumar returned to India in 1952, following 3 years in Paris, his works focused on figures that reflected the despair, the desolation, and the disparate cultural identity around him when he came back to the aftermath of India's independence. This painting by Ram Kumar, once part of the collection of Chester and David Hurwitz, is likely inspired by his observations of the upheaval of independence that he observed upon his return. The figures shown in ragged clothing evoke the refugee settlement that Ram Kumar may have observed in Delhi's Karol Bagh neighborhood, where he lived at the time. The subjects here bear the hallmarks of Ram's figurative forms: elongated necks, vacant eyes, and a melancholic expression that conveys silent suffering. In an issue of the Lalit Kala Contemporary Journal, the critic Richard Bartholomew remarked that these marionette-like and angularly stanced figures became symbols of rising social and economic inequality and an unrealized set of promises in a post-independence India. Interestingly, echoes of the Italian painter Amedeo Modigliani's unique style of portraiture, with its soft palette, asymmetrical compositions, elongated figuration, and a simple but powerful line are evident in the composition. Of particular note for this late figurative work is Bartholomew's observation on how the background helped the viewer focus on the figure as a symbol and a negated presence in correspondence with the void behind it. The geometric landscape that his figures once stood against is now barely discernible, reduced to flat, muted planes of color. This is particularly important as this work precedes his eventual abandonment of the human form and his shift towards abstracted landscapes, like Lot 58, which was painted in the 1960s. A visit to Banaras with M.F. Hussain profoundly changed Ram Kumar's work. The trip etched itself in their minds so deeply, each of them recalled it to me on separate occasions, even decades later. Although they couldn't quite settle on a date, Hussain said they went in 1960, but Ram Kumar, I remember saying, went in 1959. Inspired on this trip by the teeming bylanes and the ghats of Banaras, Ram sought to communicate his own emotional reaction to the human suffering and agony he witnessed at very close quarters. He once recounted that he was affected by coming up against wave upon wave of faceless masses of humanity, and in creating after this trip, decided to sublimate the spirit of the place into an empty cityscape. A couple of decades later, in the 1980s, the period that Lot 59 was made, representational forms slowly began reappearing in his works. Here, he juxtaposes front views of willowy trees swaying in the wind against bird's eye views in a very abstracted, multi-planar perspective of what became an unidentifiable landscape. To the critic Bartholomew, the artist's suggestive use of color and very atypical construction creates an evocative image that captures the very experience of nature rather than a specific locale. View and bid on these paintings by Ram Kumar and other works by notable modern and contemporary artists at our 25th anniversary sale on the 2nd and 3rd of April 2025 at Saffronart.